Megan Fox.
And Megan Fox has the story.
Megan Fox.
Megan Fox.
Megan Fox writes at PJ Media.
Eat Tucker.
And that was your last.
Damn it, man. I cried for 2 days.
Megan, thank you very much for that.
So, I can explain the bed thing.
If you don't show up and vote, up your ass. I don't care if you're in the hospital. Crawl to the stake. Crawl there.
It's like Jesus going to the temple. He's like, I got a whip. Get out! Get out! The lovely and wonderful Megan Fox. Not that one.
Not that one. Not the weird one that drinks blood in his toe thumb.
Megan Fox.
Megan. And honestly, Megan, if you don't like it, I'm sorry.
She's the devil.
Megan.
Megan Fox.
Megan.
Megan Fox.
I've been very nice to you, although I could probably maybe not be based on the way you have treated me, but I wouldn't do that.
You've never met a like me. You want to tangle? You want to go? Holy sh!
Too much cussing on this. I guess we didn't bleep it, so we got to turn it off. But it's
You pissed off the wrong woman.
oh my God, I have been assaulted when Megan Fox runs wild on you, brother.
She's the devil.
Not for publication.
The story.
I'm Megan.
Megan.
Megan Fox.
Thank
Thank you. Cheers.
Hey guys, good morning. How are ya? How's it going? Is it morning? I guess it's like 11 o'clock. How are ya? It's been a long weekend. I worked a lot. I'm still getting over being sick. I fixed my armchair though. Check it out. So I found the thing that I needed to put the armchair, but you guys are gonna laugh. I didn't fix it until just before the show because I'm a procrastinator. Because I have raging ADD. So I came up here to sit down and do my to set up the live stream, and I went to put my arm down and it was like boom boom. I'm like, oh crap. I still didn't fix it. And Mr. Fox isn't home. So I had to go down into his shop and dig around to find this little thing, which you all tell me is an Allen wrench. But he has like 8 of them in all different sizes. So I had to play like Goldilocks. And to figure out the right one. So now I have to remember to take it back there so I don't lose his stuff. All right. Anyway, so yes, my arm handles are firmly attached and we're ready to go. All right. So if you have not been here before, I'm Megan Fox. I'm a journalist. I'm an author and a waitress on the side. So I might be the only person on earth who had to go back to waiting tables for her health. I don't know if that's a thing, but it is for me because I have a pinched nerve after years and years of sitting in front of my desk and in my computer and typing. And so I had to, my PT said, go and walk and move. And the only way to walk and move as much as I need to and still have it be productive is to get paid for it. So I started waiting tables. And that reminds me that after this, after we do our catch up on the Maya trial today, we are going exclusively over to Locals, meganfox.locals.com. And I'm doing another installment of Tales from the Restaurant, which are hilarious, and you will not want to miss it. I always do them after the weekend of double shifts because I run into a lot of characters at the restaurant, a lot of characters. Hi, Eric. Oh my gosh, it's so good to see you. Eric Non-Idol is in the chat. Eric is so much fun. He helps me out with so much around here. Thanks for being here, everybody. And we are live right now on Rumble. We are live on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Locals. If you're not a member of Locals, go over there, meganfox.locals.com. And you can use promo code SQUATS for a discount. I think you get 2 months free for a year subscription. And we're really growing over there. I'm getting new subscribers every day, and it's really great. I am getting up to my goal that I'm looking for there. So that's great because YouTube, repeat after me, YouTube is asshole. Yes, they have demonetized this channel. And that reminds me to put the banner up. If you want to send a super chat, which I love and appreciate, it's great when you support the show, then you need to look at the ticker below. And the Cash App and Venmo addresses will scroll across there at some point. Here they come. There we go. Super chats on Cash App and on Venmo. And I get to keep all of it. And YouTube and Google doesn't get their grubby little hands all over my tips. So that's a good thing. I've had to reapply for my monetization, even though I meet all the standards. And they never gave me an excuse as to why they demonetized my channel. I've been told that I'll hear back an answer in a month. I am not, I don't think that I'm very optimistic about it, but we'll see. All right, let's get into it. Before we get to the trial coverage, we're going to go back and listen to the rest of the, well, as much as we can anyway, and in the time that I have, listen to the remaining witnesses in the day 2 of the trial. But first, I want to go over to this article on The Cut, because there was some information in it that I was looking for that I had not seen about the previous lawsuits. I hope my camera doesn't start freezing again today. It's going to really piss me off, StreamYard. Don't piss me off, StreamYard. They keep doing it, though. Every time I share something, the camera freezes. All right, here we go. This article in The Cut, let's go up to the top. It's really long. I'm not going to read the whole thing. What happened to Maya when a 10-year-old girl complained of mysterious pain? A doctor suspected child abuse. How far would she go to prove it? Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing. We've already got the recap. You guys pretty much know what's going on. If you don't know about this story, there is an article linked in the description of this video on whatever platform you're on, and you can catch up real quick by reading it. But basically, kid goes to the hospital because she's in severe pain. She has a very rare pain disease. Hospital doesn't believe parents, accuses her mother of having Munchausen, takes custody of the kid, drives her mother to suicide, and that's where we are now. We're in lawsuits about this because she did have this rare disease that her mother said. Her mother was right. Her mother was not sick. Her mother was not abusing her. And so anyway, the question I had last week that we were all talking about was there, why didn't they sue the state? Because right now this lawsuit we're watching is against the hospital. The hospital's defense appears to be, well, it's not our fault. It's the state. We can't do anything about the state. They force us to report what we think might be abuse. And then whatever they do, it's not our problem. That's like their whole defense. Which of course is garbage, but I think that they may actually be winning on that. I mean, I know it's only been, we've only had 2 witnesses so far, but I think that this is going to be a very uphill battle for the plaintiff because they did not, I think they should have rolled the state and the hospital into one lawsuit so that they could hold them both accountable and not let them wiggle out of finger pointing of, well he did it. No, we didn't do it. It wasn't our call. Garbage. All right. So this is also the case that involved ketamine treatments. So, you know, whatever you might think about ketamine, I don't know. I don't know much about it. I know that it's a party drug. I know that it's a horse tranquilizer. I know that it also, in small doses and sometimes larger doses, works for people in pain. I also know that this country has a horrific track record of helping people in pain. Our medical system is absolutely negligent when it comes to helping people in pain. They're either addicting you to opioids or not giving you opioids when you need them for pain. It's like the entire medical industry just wants you to live with it. And when your child is screaming in pain when you touch her, you'll do anything to make that stop, which is what these parents did. They took her for ketamine treatments and they were working for her. And that's what made the hospital believe that they were abusing her. Marmite says, Meg, you should cover the DCFS trial of the death of AJ Frund. Are they on trial? Is this being televised? I would be shocked, because that was that's a DCFS case, which, I mean, I guess if it was in federal court, no, in federal court, you can't have cameras. So where are they being sued? Send me, I know this case. I covered it on PJ Media, but I didn't know they were being sued. And it's televised? Is this happening now? Hold on. That's huge news to me. Hold on. That's a big deal. Oh my God. Is justice finally coming for these assholes? I feel like the floodgates are just opening if this is true. Oh my gosh. Oh my God, there is a trial. Hold on. It's being televised. Oh my God, there's too much to cover at once. All right, I'm going to have to, I guess, do highlights of that one. AJ Frund was a little boy in Illinois who was horrifically abused by his parents and eventually murdered. And they had called DCFS on his parents like 19 times, and they never removed him from the house. So again, they're removing kids who are not in any danger and who are not being abused, and leaving children who are being abused in the care of their abusers. Defund child welfare, because they're either incredibly incompetent or incredibly evil. Either way, get rid of them. We don't need them. All right. Sorry, I got off on a tangent now because I didn't know about this. So apparently the trial began 13 days ago for AJ Frund. Holy crap. We're going to have to watch some highlights of that. Maybe not today, but I'll go and look and find some, and maybe we can catch up. I had no idea that this was going to be televised. I hope they win $1 billion. All right, hold on. Let me close out that. All right, let's get to this article. So this has some information on, so the family did sue child welfare. DCF is what they call it in Florida. I'm going to read a little bit of this. We're just going to kind of scan it. Okay, so Beata was Polish. She had an accent. This really upsets me. Beata, an immigrant from Poland, Beata's the mother, knew how she came across to the doctors. English was not her first language, and she found it difficult to take the edge off of her high-strung inquiries. Still, when Sally Smith, that was the child abuse doctor, started asking questions about Maya's case history, Beata hoped that she might be sympathetic. She told Smith and the others at the hospital how hard things had been on the family, how for 3 nights before Jack brought Maya to All Children's, Maya was sleeping for only moments at a time. Light, noise, even showers had become distressing, the droplets of water making her feel like her skin was on fire. Beata told Smith about wheeling Maya out of church because even the pealing of bells had become unbearable. They were willing to do anything to treat Maya's condition. To the Kowalskis, ketamine wasn't alarming. What was alarming was their daughter's pain. Smith found the stories unconvincing. In her report to DCF, she wrote that Beata veered off regarding herself getting no sleep for weeks and the struggles of working to maintain insurance. On October 11th, Kirkpatrick's, which was the ketamine doctor, his office received a request for Maya's medical records, and he asked to speak to the person conducting the investigation. When Smith called him back, she told him she believed Maya was the victim of child abuse. The doctor reminded Smith that he had been the one to first diagnose Maya with CRPS. He had also recommended the procedure in Mexico. That evening, Kirkpatrick sent a memo to a colleague. I cautioned Dr. Smith about accusing a family member of criminal conduct as she moves forward with her investigation, he wrote, noting that doing so could result in needless and permanent harm to the child and family. So they were warned by a doctor, no less. Separately, Hannah advised Smith that Munchausen by proxy was a common misdiagnosis in CRPS cases. According to the Cleveland Clinic, there are no reliable statistics on the disorder, but one estimate is that 0.04% of child abuse cases reported annually are related to it. Do you hear that? 0.04%. And it's actually lower than that because Munchausen doesn't exist. There are child abusers and there are not child abusers. There is no psychological condition that only affects women. God, it's so misogynistic. I can't even say it out loud without laughing. It's so dumb. How can we be this far along? How can it be 2023 and we still have the entire medical community believing in a psychological disorder that only affects women, like hysteria? Are you kidding me? Yes, some mothers abuse their children. Yeah, it's not Munchausen. It's just you're a child abuser. You're probably a narcissist, attention-seeking psychopath. That's what explains it, not Munchausen. And anybody can be an attention-seeking narcissistic psychopath. But Munchausen is used specifically to get rid of women that hospitals find annoying. They did it to Cynthia Absug. She wouldn't give up on trying to figure out what was wrong with her son. And they didn't like that. They didn't like that she asked questions. They didn't like that they couldn't figure it out. They didn't like that it was a difficult case. And that's what they do to you. If you have an ill kid with some rare disorder, God help you. Because if you listen to the doctors like Cindy did, they accuse you of abuse and take your kid. If you don't listen to the doctors like Beata did, they accuse you of abuse and they take your kid. There's no winning with this situation. Cynthia Absug did everything they told her to do at the hospitals. She's not a doctor. She just did everything they told her to do. They said, put him in leg braces. So she puts him in leg braces. They say, let him have a wheelchair for when he wants to sit down, when he's tired. So she gets him one. Then she goes to court. They accuse her of child abuse and they use pictures of him in a wheelchair saying, you put him in a wheelchair and he didn't need to be. No, the doctor's order said to give him one. So why isn't the doctor on trial for abuse? God, this pisses me off. All right, sorry, I'm getting back to it so we can get to the trial. Hold on. Oh, and this is the dumbest thing ever. One method of, I hate this so much. The doctor's warnings were not included in Smith's report to the state, she deliberately withheld exculpatory evidence. That's a crime. It's a constitutional violation. Maybe not a crime, but it's a constitutional violation. It should be a crime. Withholding exculpatory evidence is totally against the law. Sorry, hold on. I'm still recovering. Cough button. One method of supporting a Munchausen by proxy diagnosis is a separation test. Remove the child from the offending parent and see if her health dramatically improves. But as weeks went by with Maya isolated, she continued to report extreme pain. And in Cynthia Absug's case, they had been giving the kid therapy that was already making him improve. So when they took him away from her, he continued on the same therapy that she was giving him and continued to improve. And they used that as evidence that he improved outside of her care, even though he was improving before they took him. I mean, it's just, you can't win with these people. You cannot win. Legal Vices Raid. I love it. Hey, Jeff. Vices Raid. Welcome. Permission to come aboard, David. Yes. Permission granted. Yeah, statistically, Karma, thank you for pointing this out. I appreciate this very much. Statistically, living with your married biological parents is the safest place for a child to be. And there is no reason for any doctor or social worker to just automatically assume that a kid is being abused because her parents disagree with the doctor. You guys are so funny. Get on in here, Legal Vices Raid. Get in here. We are talking about a horrific case the Take Care of Maya case, Maya Kowalski, who is a child who was medically kidnapped by Johns Hopkins Children's Hospital in Florida, and they are currently being sued. They drove her mother to suicide when they accused her of Munchausen syndrome by proxy, and we're catching up on testimony from last week. I'm just going over an article right now that has more information about the lawsuit that she filed against the state and child services, and we're going to read about that right now. Duncan, you can send super chats, yes, but see, YouTube has demonetized me, so you have to send them through Venmo and Cash App. And if you look through the on the bottom of the screen, it is scrolling across there. And and I will open up Venmo and I will open up Cash App so I get the notifications. If you guys send them, you can send messages and I will read them from the app. Okay, sound good? All right, let me open Cash App. No, that's not Cash App. All right. So I'll keep an eye on my phone. If you guys send any, want to send any comments, that's where you do it. Okay. Oh, by the way, I missed a couple of Cash Apps last week from Palmyra. Thank you so much for those, by the way. I appreciate that. We got a couple of Cash Apps from them, from Palmyra Productions, that said, we all hope you're doing well. And I thank you very much for that. So sorry I missed you last week. All right, let's get back to the article. All right. So she didn't get better. They removed her from her mother. She never got better. We're going to skip down here. Now, then they told, they changed the diagnosis. Beata's diagnosis. They diagnosed Beata with Munchausen by proxy, and then they switch it to factitious disorder. Jeff, are you talking about tomorrow for Depp? It depends. Because the court's going back live in this case tomorrow. We have to talk about it. Because I wanted to cover it live as much as I could since I'm working so much. And I have to work around my schedule. And I wasn't counting on this trial, but it was happening. And this one is right up my alley. So I wanted to cover at least a couple hours of it in the morning. But if it starts I think it starts at the same time your Depp thing does. We'll talk about it later. Text me. All right. Smith, who's the child abuse doctor, has acknowledged that she sees abuse and subterfuge when others don't. Yeah, because she's got a God complex. The reason I end up determining that children have been abused when others aren't sure about it is because I just keep asking more and more questions. Oh, she's so proud of herself. She said once in a lecture at All Children's. In another talk, she added, the primary problem with child abuse is that the person who has abused the child is full on lying. And we have to remember that what we're being told in the history is a bunch of baloney, and it's our job to figure it out. Smith said, that's what they said about Cynthia Absug too. Total, it's so much garbage. I always set myself up for these jokes every time, and I never see it coming. It's the blonde in me. I cannot help it. I was born blonde. Ask Nick. Every time I'm texting him, I say something stupid that he turns into a hilarious joke. Oh, all right. All right, let's see. The problem, let's see. Where was I? Smith said that in court, she has often come under attack with people saying, I'm a zealot. Yeah, well, she sounds like a zealot. But she believes these accusations are unfair. Oh, do you, Smith? How does it feel to be the butt of unfair accusations? How does that feel? She said she can't recall a single time that her fellow experts at the state or national level have disagreed with one of her assessments. Oh, yeah, like the state would ever disagree with one of their own damn employees. She's an employee of the state. She was an employee of the state. At All Children, Smith wore an ID badge bearing the hospital's logo, and during the pandemic sometimes sported a white lab coat. Families often assumed that she was a doctor on staff, and what they told her was protected by doctor-patient confidentiality. Oh my God, it's subterfuge. This is so bad. In reality, she didn't work for All Children's, and her primary employer was not the state. It wasn't the state? I thought she worked for the state. Oh, Florida privatized its child welfare system in 2004, and the work in the Pinellas County is outsourced to a company called Suncoast Center, Inc. Well, they should sue the hell out of them. Smith was one of its 117 employees. Suncoast and similar entities across the state are funded by more than $3 billion of public money. Yet there is little oversight. Look, folks, don't be fooled here. See, when the Cut does stuff like this, they're going to start saying, this is a problem because they privatized it. And when you privatize these things, there's no oversight. There is no oversight in government child welfare either. And don't let anybody tell you that there is. I have tried to find who is in charge of DCFS and CPS in Missouri. You know, nobody's in charge. Not the attorney general. There's nobody in charge. There's nobody to oversee it. There isn't one separate government entity that ever takes a look at what they are doing at the DCFS office in Missouri. Nobody. It's just the people who run the place. There's no one checking, no one looking through files, absolutely no one. So when you hear people like this, journalists at the Cut go, well, the problem is that it's privatized, so there's no oversight. There's no oversight anywhere. This is crazy. I mean, I'm not saying that privatization is a good idea or a bad idea. I don't know. I think all of this child welfare, like this billion-dollar industry, is corrupt and sick. And however they're running it, private, public, doesn't matter. It's all bad. All right, let's get back to it. Moving on. Suncoast, yet there is little oversight of how effective they are in stopping child abuse or how often the alleged wrongdoing where none exists. Okay, you tell me when the last time was that a government office made transparent its statistics on how often CPS or DCFS got shit wrong. They don't. There's no oversight. Do you remember my case in Ohio with the 10-year-old who was raped? Do you remember how I tried to get the information from the state offices about the investigation and what was done and how long they left her in the home with the rapist, because they left her there with the rapist before they arrested him, knowing he was a rapist for days, weeks? There's no transparency. They just refuse to answer questions. There's nobody overlooking them. I even talked to Congress people in Ohio, and they had no idea what to do. People in the House of Representatives in Ohio, they had senators, no idea what to do. No idea who to call. I had some of them, Republicans, calling me saying, I've looked into trying to find out who's in charge of this, and I can't find anybody that will answer that, that they all pass the buck. So they're all two sides of the same coin. Do not let any of these people say that there's some kind of oversight in the government sector, because there ain't. Smith operated within a system that has been designed on multiple levels to aggressively identify child abuse. Florida law mandates that all citizens are mandatory reporters. Anyone who suspects a child is being harmed must notify the authorities, and failing to do so can lead to blah, blah, blah. All right. We're going to skip down here because I want to talk about the lawsuit. The Kowalskis hired a lawyer to represent them in family dependency court, and at a custody hearing that month, the judge, Lee Hayworth, seems somewhat skeptical about Maya's handling. If the hospital is prohibiting contact without solid medical reasons between the family and the child, that's a serious issue, he said. Beata offered to move out of the family home if it meant Maya could return. Yet in child abuse cases in Florida, judges almost always side with medical professionals over families. Armed with reports from Smith, hospital attorneys argued that sending Maya home could expose her to harm. And Hayworth issued a series of continuances that kept her confined to All Children's. She was not allowed to visit with her mother for Christmas. A week later in January, just before Maya was to travel from the hospital to another hearing, Beatty and a nurse, I don't know who Betty is, Beatty or Betty, I think a doctor, and a nurse entered her room and told her to take her clothes off. The hospital's risk management department wanted photos of her taken before the proceeding. Hold on, let's find out who Beatty or Betty is. How would you say B-E-D-Y? B-E-D-Y. How would you say that? Let's go to the first mention of that name. Oh, it says her social worker. Of course, the worst people on earth, Kathy Beatty. We'll call her Beatty because I bet she has beady little eyes. All right. Wait, let's go back. Wow, this is horrible. The hospital's risk management department wanted photos of her taken before the proceeding. Maya refused to cooperate, even when Beatty told her that if she didn't, she wouldn't be allowed to go to the courthouse to see her mother. Beatty began to forcibly remove her pants and shirt. Oh my God. Maya wrote an account of it that was later included in a legal filing. I was crying and saying, "No, stop," Maya wrote, but she wouldn't stop. Beatty pinned my face down, and either she or the nurse took photos of me in my training bra and shorts. Oh, Jesus. The Kowalskis later learned that Beatty had been fired from a previous position managing foster care children for Suncoast when she was arrested and charged with child abuse. Oh, my God. 4 fellow Suncoast employees called the police after they watched Beatty pin a 10-year-old boy to the ground with her knees and cover his face with a blanket as he cried out that he couldn't breathe. In a deposition, Beatty denied using her knees on the child. She declined to comment for this article. But they still allow her to work in child services after being arrested for child abuse, you guys. That's how good our child welfare services are, that they hire and employ known child abusers. That's how great they are. Jeff, I sent you a link if you want to come in here. It's in your Twitter. Afterward, Maya got dressed and met her uncle outside the hospital. With the exception of afternoon walks on hospital grounds, escorted by Beatty, it was the first time in months that she had been outside a fluorescent-lit hospital room. She had spent Halloween, Christmas, New Year's, and her 11th birthday in the hospital. She wanted to go back to school. She wanted to play Mario Kart with her brother. All right, we're moving down because I want to know about the lawsuit. So we know that her mother killed herself. We don't need to go into those details right now. We will go. We need the next one. The Kowalskis sued All Children's, DCF, Suncoast, Smith, and Beatty in October of 2018. And a judge determined that there was sufficient evidence for punitive damages to be awarded for the charges of battery and false imprisonment. Early this year, Smith and Suncoast settled their portion of the lawsuit for $2.5 million. I don't think that was enough. I think a jury would have awarded them much more. I obtained the agreement through a public records request, said the journalist here. The case against All Children's and Beatty continues. Well, All Children's is the one we're watching, but Beatty's lawsuit, she dropped the charges against Beatty for whatever reason. They dropped the lawsuit. I don't know why. In March, on the eve of jury selection, a judge delayed the trial indefinitely, but Jack says he's intent on deterring the hospital from needlessly separating children from their families. So now this is the remaining question, and if anybody can find this out for me, please find out if you can through research, because I don't have time to do it right now. Why was the lawsuit against Beatty dropped? Because it sounds like they had a hell of a case against her. All right, we're going to go back over to the trial where we were watching, and we're going to watch where pick up where we left off. Those of you joining me from Legal Vices, I just want to say, who just walked in here? Who's in here? All right. Sorry, my kid. Those of you who join me from Legal Vices, I just want to let you know after this, I'm going to be on meganfox.locals.com. For my subscribers over there, we're doing my Tales from a Restaurant, another installment on that one. It's hilarious, you guys, because I wait tables on the weekends, or actually Wednesday through Sunday. And I have some of the funniest stories to share with you guys about the characters that I meet in the restaurant and just the things that go on. It's a hilarious, good time. So that's going to be directly after this stream when we're finished here. That's what we're going to do over there. Go to meganfox.locals.com, sign up now, and you will get a discount if you use promo code SQUATS. You'll get 2 months for free if you sign up for a year. And if you use promo code AJLT, you're going to get a free month when you sign up for $5 a month. So don't forget, while we are watching this, you can send super chats through Venmo and Cash App because, repeat after me, YouTube is asshole. All right, now, guys, there's a lot of paper shuffling in the microphone on this stream. I just want to say now, it is not me. Stop saying, Megan, stop shuffling papers. It's not me. Most of the time, I'm going to be on mute here. So we're going to speed it up when we need to, when we can, skip over breaks and stuff and see if we can get through this. This is Kyle Kowalski. I think he's just finished up his testimony. This is the brother of Maya. Here we go. I think he's finished. Linux Charms. Megan, stop touching papers. It's not me. Yeah, I think Kyle just finished up. There's going to be somebody else after Kyle. No, RL, I never lost my channel. I didn't lose it. The channel has always been here. It's just that they demonetized me, so I can't make any money on my channel.
I'm going to go ahead and ask the jury's questions. What hospital did Maya go to this last time?
On her last remission? On her last remission, she did not. I do not remember her exact name, but I do know for a fact that it was not John Hopkins.
Mr. Anderson, do you have any further questions based on the jury's questions?
I do not, Your Honor.
Defense?
No, Your Honor.
Jury, are there any other questions? Okay, Mr. Kyle Kowalski, you can go have a seat back at the table. Okay, members of the jury, what I'm going to do is I'm going to excuse you in a moment for lunch. I'm going to ask that you be back at the rallying point at
Whoops, I was muted. All right, they're going to lunch. I just wanted to show you the judge in case you haven't seen this judge yet. He is so hilarious. Look at the hair island. We've been calling it the hair island. Judge Tuft. He's got this little tuft of hair that he will not shave off right on the top. Don't do this, guys. Dude, don't do this. Just shave it off already. It's so distracting. All right, let's go past the lunch break. Let's go. Here we go. Here's Judgy. I don't know his name yet. I haven't learned all these characters yet.
you can have an argument, but what I'm saying is most likely I'm going to be giving something. So perhaps you could ask Mr. Elliott to work with Mr. Altenburn over the weekend on that particular issue so that on Tuesday morning we can either have an agreement knowing that I'm going to give something, or I'll have to make a ruling and each side can give me their version and I can read the one I go with.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I do have one last issue, Your Honor, before the witness testifies, just so we don't have to excuse the jury.
God, these people never talk. They never speak up.
Was attempted to be admitted in as a social work note involving this next witness, Jackie Deeter.
It's like the one page of the
Speak
thousands
up.
of pages that is in.
Correct, Your Honor. I'm happy to put on the screen.
Yeah, can someone put it on the screen so I can.
It's 2019. It's 1001 2019. And if you'll zoom in, and this is my concern, and it goes with what Mr. Altenburn just said. If you note in this note, it says social worker escorted up to Jackie Deeter from Sarasota homebound teachers well known to Maya. She and Diane and another teacher will be working with the patient until she's placed. Nurse asked that laptop not be left with the patient for fear of outside contacts teacher wants patient to Skype with their classmates. The concern we have, especially when it went on this morning, is that the plaintiff is going to try to elicit testimony from this witness that the hospital made the decision that Maya couldn't have a laptop. The problem with this is there's an email of the same day from DCF to the hospital saying, quote, Maya is not allowed to have her laptop and phone kept there right now, as there's been info being shared from the mother who has been court-ordered no contact. So, again, we have a legitimate fear that the plaintiff is going to try to get testimony from the teacher. You try to leave Maya with a laptop. The hospital said no. We have no way to rebut that without getting in extraneous emails going on the same day. These are court orders that the hospitals follow with regard to laptop use. So we would just ask that, that there not be an implication if they're going to talk to her about this, that this was the hospital precluding the laptop. It's all by order of DCF. And I have the
Again, it's all their fault. They did it, not us.
Why isn't that? Why can't the hospital, in its case, call a witness on that particular issue?
We could.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Right. I mean, I guess the cross-examination, as long as I have room to do it, is you're not aware whether the refusal for the laptop was pursuant to a DCF order. It just, again, it's bleeding the issues that we saw all morning with asking witnesses, visitations and things. All of this is being controlled by the court. And we are afraid, which is why Mr. Altenberg approached you about an instruction, that the plaintiff is trying to implicate denials of visitation, denials of laptops, of personal items to hospital decisions. And like I said, we have emails of the same day. It's DCF saying she can't have the laptop.
Well, Mr. Anderson?
Well, Your Honor, the fact is that the court order itself was relatively limited. And so what we have here is the hospital writing over to DCF and asking them to send an email back to them, telling them what they asked them to do. But the order itself says nothing about depriving this child of a laptop to learn. And in fact, the testimony will be that the state, there's a separate order, and DCF allowed this teacher in, and she will so testify, to teach Maya there, and that part of this learning was a special program on that laptop. So before we get into which order, I think first we need the testimony, and then the court can determine, once you hear all of the evidence, the steps to take. And that has been our position throughout this, is that for every one of these actions that we are talking about, you will see, and we will prove, that Johns Hopkins makes a decision.
I like this
They
idea.
call over to DCF and say, we think this is going on. DCF, you need to write them back. DCF, like robots, writes right back to the hospital and says, don't do this. And so if you compare those and then go back to the actual order issued by the court, it has nothing to do with it. In fact, it's diametrically opposed to their own internal rules and procedures at the hospital. So they're violating their own rules and procedures, and to get around that, they're going up to DCF, but none of this is pursuant to a court order.
At the end of the day, the court order says what the court order says. And obviously, I'm going to be instructing the jury that the parties were obligated to follow the court order. If it is something beyond the court order, then that's going to be fair game.
Okay. Understood.
Anything else?
Not for claims.
Wait,
Let's bring in the jury.
wait, that was a good call. That was a good call, because look, what the judge is saying is, I'm not saying it's not coming in, because if we're going to have to look at those court orders and see what the court order actually said. And if the hospital went beyond the court order, that's fair game. Did the court order say she couldn't have a laptop to do her schoolwork in the hospital? Oh, this is the first call, though, that he has made on the plaintiff's side. Have you remember? I mean, he's been actually really bad about about letting evidence in. He hasn't let anything in so far. I mean,
welcome everybody. Please be seated. Y'all have a
so
good
that
lunch.
was good. Make the hospital
I
make
wanna
their
confirm,
case.
while you were away, you did not discuss this case amongst yourselves. You did no investigation, and you received.
Let
no
them
information. Is
introduce
that all
their
correct?
own evidence, you know? They're
Plaintiffs,
leaning on
your
the
next
judge
witness,
to just
please.
keep everything out. Who? God, I wish they would put their mouths to the microphone. What is it with lawyers in courtrooms that they can't find the goddamn microphone? I'd like to call to the stand. You know, Karma, he may have been nervous. You know, it was the first day of trial last week. This is only day 2. So he's probably getting used to being on TV. This guy is a seasoned litigator. He's been a litigator for 30 years. He's a senior partner or a senior, I think it's his law firm. He has a very long track record. I don't know who this woman is because I couldn't hear the damn lawyer because he doesn't open his mouth. So we're just going to have to figure it out. Does she have a hairbrush is what I want to know. Looks like her hairbrush might be lost. It's not that bad. No, she brushed her hair today. That's nice. Oh, this is the teacher. Right, the teacher.
Would you please state your name for the record?
Jackie Deeter.
And have you been called to testify today as Maya's gifted teacher?
Yes.
What grades did you instruct Maya in?
I taught Maya in 4th grade and in 5th.
Would you just give us the benefit of your background and education?
Okay, so I graduated from the University of South Florida. I have my bachelor's in education, and I have my master's in gifted. I teach the advanced work class at Taylor Ranch, right down the road.
How long have you taught at Taylor Ranch?
You're going to make me sound old. 1990. I know I don't look like I've been teaching this.
I was doing the math, but I won't do that.
I started teaching at 12.
Is that the first and only school you've taught at in the Venice area?
Yes.
She's
Why
funny.
leave the most awesome place in the world?
And how long have you been instructing gifted students at Taylor Ranch?
So I got my master's, I think the year 2011, maybe 12. I was trying to get it done before my son went to college. So almost right after that. I actually had taught them before that. I just had been certified gifted, and I wanted to know more about that kind of gifted brain. So I decided to go get my master's. I think I've been about 15, 16 years now working with just gifted kids.
And what was your master's in?
Gifted. Kids with bright intelligence.
All right. So Maya was entering the 4th grade in the fall of 2015, is that right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And how is it that students are accepted into the gifted program at Taylor Ranch?
So we're not a magnet school in the county. Pineview in Sarasota is the magnet school for kids qualified gifted. But if you don't want to go to that school, I would say about 1/3 of my class is gifted, and the other 2/3 are high achieving. Their data, their scores from previous years get them qualified in the class.
So did Maya test into your class?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the first time you would have met Maya, would that have been when the school year began in 2015?
Correct.
What was your impression of Maya when you first met her?
So when I first met Maya, she came to my class in a wheelchair, and her parents brought her. And she was really excited to see the kids, real bubbly. You kind of wouldn't think she was in a wheelchair. She just acted and looked like a regular kid. And they just brought her in to introduce her to all the students. And she was real excited to be there.
And what about Jack? How did Jack strike you as a father?
Yeah, same thing. They were real excited that she could go to school, that they would just have a student pushing around or the teacher. Yeah, no, they were both very excited that she got in our program. Kids like to get in that program.
And same question for Beata. How did she strike you?
Mm-hmm. I kind of remember Beata kind of like looking at where would old Weirchill go? Where would she sit? I think if I recall, Jack was pushing her in, and Beata was kind of doing the, we split rooms, right? The fourth grade teacher and I share the kids. And so they were kind of looking around to where would Maya be? So when she gets pushed in, she'll be comfortable. Yeah.
You mentioned the other teacher. Did you co-teach this?
Right. So I do the math and science for fourth grade. So I only see them for about an hour and a half. And then the fifth grade is my home room. And then my fifth graders go to the fourth grade gifted teacher for reading, language arts.
And so Maya comes to your class for the first time in a wheelchair. Was anything explained to you about her medical condition?
No, not really at the time, not from administration. I don't remember if Jack or Beata even said anything. We just thought she was a girl in a wheelchair.
Did Maya resemble her mother?
Yes. Yeah.
What about any commonalities you had with Beata? Were there any commonalities?
Well, I didn't realize it at the time, but a month or two later when we did Homebound, because I eventually ended up going into her home, yeah, I had a lot in common with Beata. She's Polish, and my grandparents immigrated from Poland. My grandmother lived with us. She reminded me a lot of Beata. They're from Chicago, and we're from Chicago. I went to Catholic school when I was in Chicago. So yeah, I really related well with the Kowalski family.
And did there come a time that fall, you've mentioned it a couple times already, but this Homebound program, can you explain a little bit about that?
So initially she wasn't homebound. She was probably in our class for maybe a month. And then the county had, it wasn't Zoom back then, this was pre-COVID, some type of a Skype program. And we had to get authorization for a video camera to be in our room. And so for a month we tried that. Then it was hard because sometimes she would have physical therapy and stuff, or when we were teaching math or science or reading, she'd have something else going on, or if she didn't feel good. So after a month of that, then the county decided to do Homebound, where we would go to her house and tutor her 3 to 4 hours a week, 2 hours in reading, language arts, 2 hours in math and science. And Mrs. Shepler and I split that, going to her home once a week after school and teaching her there.
So how often in the fall of 2015 were you in the Kowalski home?
Oh, a lot, at least once a week.
And explain, if you could, Maya's mobility around the house at that time.
So yeah, initially she'd get around with her wheelchair. And she would get, I would pick her up and put her onto like the bar stool. And sometimes she would like to do studies there. Sometimes it would be the kitchen table. Sometimes she'd like to be on the ground. I think just to stretch out her legs. But then after a while, she was always in her room. So I don't know how long I'd been there. I'm trying to think of like what the time frame was, maybe October, November. And then most of the time when I went there, went down the hall and turned to the left, she was in her room, laying in her bed, and I would tutor her in her bed.
In this October, November 2015 period, was she in pain? Did you observe her to be in pain?
Progressively, yes. Initially, I don't think so. But very quickly, progressively, a lot of pain. It got to a point where I was only seeing her in her bedroom, and sometimes she would like moan, like kind of hum. So I would kind of know when to take a break. And when I would say, do you want to get your drink? You want to get you something to eat? And sometimes we would take a break, and at some point we would just end the tutoring session.
And physically, I understand the moaning. How did she appear physically at this time?
At the end?
Yeah, early November 2015.
So in the beginning, it feels so crazy to describe this, but like waist up, just great. And she's a real bubbly girl, a real girly girl. And, always had her nails done, like to brush her hair. Always wanted, just real little girly girl. And then as she was getting sicker, especially when she was in her bed, like her eyes looked sunken in. They looked really gray. She kind of looked a little gray. Her legs were going in. She looked like a kid that wasn't going to make it.
This is, again, fall 2015, before the trip to Mexico. how was Jack when you were in the home tutoring Maya?
So Jack was the at-home dad, and he was just kind of like that person that hid any nervousness behind it. You'd never know. Jack was always positive. Yeah, he was always making sure Kyle was taken care of and doing something, fishing or something. But yeah, he was just the epitome of the at-home dad, and he always had a super positive focus on what was going on or the kids. If he was worried, he would never talk to me about it until I walked out to my car. And when he would follow me is when I would know he would have something to maybe tell me. But up front and in front of the kids, it was always super positive. He loved being an at-home dad.
Was he welcoming? Was he offering you food?
Oh, 100% all the time. Yes. Yeah.
What about Beata? Was she present during this time?
So some of the time she wasn't. I would typically try to get there at 4, sometimes a little later. It always depended on Maya's schedule and what was going on. And sometimes Beata would get home. I don't really remember her schedule. So sometimes I'd catch her at the end. If I recall her norm, she'd come in with a few groceries or a little bit of stuff to put in the fridge. And she would basically initially talk about how things were going with the kids. Kyle, do you have your homework done? Maya, how are you doing? She would try to not interrupt us, tutoring, but you never really hear her talk about work. I never really knew how her job was. She never came home in a negative attitude about her job. And it was usually, how are the kids doing? I think because I was there, she would touch in with Kyle. Kyle, how you doing? Do you have any homework? What are you doing? And then come over and see how Maya's doing. Try to touch base with me because I talked to Jack a lot about how she was doing academically, just because I was there with him the most. And she'd always try to get how's she doing compared to the other kids? What's going on? She would always do a touch base. Very, she's a Polish girl, so she was a little bit more matter of fact. Just that demeanor she always had.
And over the course of the fall, did you, as you saw
That is
Maya,
so true about Polish
with her eyes
women.
sunken in, did you
They will
become
tell you
aware
what
that
they
they were
think.
going to take her to Mexico for this kind of
They are
treatment?
not shy.
At sometime around that path, Maya and Beata had told us about this blog from a girl called Jessica's Journey. And so I shared it with the parents in my classroom. And
He's going to
All right,
object
just
to the
focus you back.
blog.
Okay.
You're fine. I'll just focus you back to whether or not you became aware that she was going to travel to Mexico to receive some ketamine treatment.
Yes.
And I imagine there was an interruption in your tutoring of Maya while she was out of the country.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then at some point, either in December or January, your tutoring with Maya resumed.
Yes. As soon as she got back and was feeling ready.
And again, back in her home.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
How did she look after the ketamine treatment in Mexico?
She looked tired, but she didn't look so, she looked like she had a little bit more strength. She wasn't bedridden. She was in the wheelchair. And progressively within a month, seemed like she was in October. So she had strength back, but still in a wheelchair.
And so if you compare her physical condition before she left for Mexico and when she got back from Mexico, would you make that comparison for the jury, please?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, she just seemed strong again. I wasn't going back and tutoring in her bedroom, but she still was in a wheelchair, but she just she was glowing. Maya glowed. She was that little girl that glowed. She was glowing.
Would you have to lift her out of her wheelchair at times?
Still then a little bit because her legs were kind of inverted, but she was so, her legs, her arms, she could move the wheelchair. Where previous to that, I would sometimes have to push her, but at that point, she had the strength in her upper body.
And you tutored her throughout the spring of 2016?
Yes.
That was the end of her 4th grade year?
Correct.
And did she maintain status quo? Did she progressively get better during that spring, or did she get worse during that spring?
No, she got better. She was never out of the wheelchair, but there were times where she could kind of scoot herself around places. No, it seemed to be she was getting better. They just had to figure out how to get her legs working again.
What about her academic performance during the second half of her fourth grade year?
Yeah, Maya was a brilliant kid. If she hadn't been home health bound and going through what she was, I definitely would have recommended her for gifted to be identified and tested so she could have had the option of going to a magnet school at like Pineview if she wanted to. But there was just so much going on at home. I know that wasn't the concern of the parents, but oh yeah, she was very brilliant. She was one of my top students in a gifted classroom.
Did the homebound program provide schooling over the summer of 2016?
You know, I didn't always just follow what the homebound program did. If Maya had the need and she needed me to be there to teach her, I was there. So if Jack got a hold of me and Maya needed some help, I wasn't always confined to
What a
the
sweetheart.
dates of the homebound program. It would just be what do you need? What does she need? Does she need a break from school? Does she want me to come? So I know the next school year, I started up with Maya again before the school year started. And I know we didn't have a homebound contract at the time just because paperwork can take a lot of time. And I knew what Maya's needs were. So I started seeing her before school started. And Maya loved school. So she loved for me to come.
So outside of whatever the county was
Oh, yeah.
paying for,
Yeah.
you
yeah.
did this voluntarily
Many times.
and saw her over the summer of 2016.
Yes, especially that August before the school year started, making sure she was ready, seeing how she was.
And if I could ask you to draw a comparison again between how she's doing in August of 2016, and she's now getting ready to start fifth grade.
Right.
How was she doing getting ready to start fifth grade compared to spring of fourth grade?
Right. Strong, still in the wheelchair, looked good, really bubbly, just couldn't, walk. But her demeanor, her arms, her body strength, everything was still like we were just waiting for something to happen. But yeah, positive, bubbly, excited. You always try to give them hope. So you're thinking, maybe you'll be able to Skype. Maybe you'll be able to come to the school again, like in fourth grade. We didn't really know when it would turn.
And over this 9-month period, January 2016 to September 2016, you were aware that she was getting periodic ketamine treatments.
Right.
And you tutored her almost every week.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And did you ever notice any negative effects from the ketamine treatments that affected her academic performance or ability to do her schoolwork?
No. A few times she seemed tired, but it never affected her ability. She was a super bright kid.
And then we get to
I'm surprised they
her
didn't object to
admission
that
to Johns Hopkins
because she's not a
Children's
medical
Hospital,
professional.
beginning of October 2016. By that point, you'd already started the regular school year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so you were again going to her home.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see a kind of a rapid decline just before she went into the hospital there?
Yeah, I think that last week before she went, we didn't even go see her. I think Jack or Beata might have texted us or myself and said, Maya's having a really tough day. So once or twice, and then all of a sudden we got the text, I believe, from Jack that they'd taken her to the hospital.
And do you recall some confusion or some back and forth over whether she'd be allowed to have the homebound program in that fifth grade year? Can I show you an email?
Yeah.
Your Honor, if we could publish 2408-1675, which has been admitted.
You may.
Take a moment if you wouldn't mind, just read it to yourself.
Right. Yeah. So that's September. Mm-hmm.
So this is you writing to Beata and Jack.
Right.
And if you could just, I'm sure the jury's had a chance to read it as well, but if you could just summarize what was going on in the background here with the home health bound program for Maya.
So just, the school year started, maybe we would have been in about 3 weeks according to that date. And that the official paperwork had come that, that they would allow Maya to be home health bound. But I'd already seen her previous to that. So this was just kind of making it official of would Monday and Thursdays work. And Mrs. Shepler and I would be rotating back and forth. But I do remember, I'm just recalling this, that at one point Jack said, even if the school system doesn't approve it, I'll just pay you. And
Sorry.
he didn't need to do that.
So Jack offered to pay you.
Yeah.
All right. We can
This woman is so
take that down.
sweet.
Did you have any contact with any of Maya's physicians during this 2016 period before Johns Hopkins?
No, I'd only known that her primary care physician was Dr. Wassenaar, a really well-known pediatrician in Venice. Being a teacher since 1990, you know of a lot of pediatricians. I have 4 children myself, so I was keenly aware of great pediatricians in town. And parents will talk to you about them, so I knew that she was in good care. I knew that he had sent her or they had found a specialist. And so I knew that they were seeing a specialist, but I hadn't had contact with either of those, primary care or specialist.
But you knew of her pediatrician.
Oh, yeah. Everybody knew Dr. Wassenaar.
And so you mentioned a few minutes ago that Mr. Kowalski texted you and said that she'd been admitted to Johns Hopkins.
Right.
And then at some point after that, did you learn that she wasn't coming home in the near future?
No, I think it took me a while to figure that out. When I first started going up there, I didn't know that she wouldn't be coming home for a while. I felt like I was going up there a few weeks, and I just thought she'd be released any day. I think it probably took a month before any word had gotten to me, if I recall, that the hospital had kind of taken over her care. I was just going up there as like her teacher and continuing to do home health bound.
Did you come to learn what the allegations were against Beata?
Yes, I believe Jack might have texted me and said what had happened.
Mr. Vodovoz, I don't understand what you're saying, Mr. Anderson.
I'm sorry.
I was trying to get the volume turned up a little bit, Judge.
The volume is
Okay.
at the highest level it can get.
I'm sorry. I have a very soft voice. I'll get closer. Sorry.
It's because they use potatoes
Sorry,
for
I
an
didn't
audio
understand
system
what
in
you
courtrooms everywhere in America.
Secret language.
I'd like to show the witness Joint Exhibit 1073-65.
You may.
Thank you. Do you recognize this?
Yes, so that's an IEP. It's an individual education plan. I do a lot of these every year for gifted kids. Hers was unique. It was really the start of Sarasota County allowing a camera to be put in the schools. Of course, this was pre-COVID, so there was a lot of scare about allowing that to be happening in a classroom, a camera to be in the classroom videotaping, and a student to be Skyping with us. So it took a long time for our IT person to get this allowed.
And if we look at the bottom of that first page, I see your name and your signature, and then above that, I think I see Ms. Kowalski's name. You see that?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So she was involved in this process.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
And was she supportive or unsupportive of her daughter receiving some schooling?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, the more she could get, the better. I think they were a little sad that they only got allocated 3 hours a week.
She wanted more.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And if you'll take us to page 69, please. And the bottom there, the meeting minutes, it says Taylor Ranch will allow supplemental instruction such as Skyping into the classroom for reading and math instruction.
Correct.
What was the plan there for Skyping?
So this was this the beginning of her 5th grade year?
Yes.
And so we were going to try to do it. So we were like allocated 4 hours a week, but we really needed like 4 hours a day because I teach math and science 2 hours every day. And Mrs. Shepler teaches reading language arts, an hour and a half. So she would start in the morning, and she would start with Maya, and Maya would be in my classroom. And then my students would move into Mrs. Shepler's at 9:30. We have the same schedule now. And they would do reading language arts for an hour. But I do recall most of the time Maya couldn't make it back in the afternoon for my science instruction because she was tired or she had doctor's appointments. So she would basically be online with us from like 8:30 to 11:30 every morning. And then our kids would go to a lunch. And then by the afternoon, most of the time she wouldn't make it back. So I am reading that it says 4 hours weekly, but we try to do it every day.
But the school district was willing to support remote education.
Yeah,
for
it was
Maya.
the first time ever. It was groundbreaking.
And you were more than willing to do it.
Oh, yeah, it was exciting. The kids would love to see her computer stroll in and they could see her face.
And so after she was at Johns Hopkins Children's Hospital in October, you mentioned you started being allowed to see her.
Right.
How was she doing in the first couple of weeks?
Yeah, she was.
Every time somebody asks this question, why isn't there a super chat button? I'm going to stop the show and tell you again to check out the scrolling words at the bottom of the screen. YouTube is asshole, and they have demonetized this channel. I've had a channel for 10 years that's been monetized for a long time, and they demonetized my entire channel for no damn reason. I was told 3 different explanations. One was hate speech, one was sensitive content, and the other was bullying and harassment. Of course, they wouldn't tell me who was bullied or harassed, or who was hated, or what was sensitive. But so if you want to send me a super chat, you can on Venmo and Cash App, or a Rumble rant, because we're live on Rumble, or on Locals. You can send tips, or just join my Locals. Join my Locals, meganfox.locals.com, or head on over to the merch store. Because there's a lot of really fun things in the merch store, and you can support the show. Look, there's Make Americans Friends Again t-shirts. There's Megan Fox Investigates t-shirts. There's Oh for Fox's Sake merch. There's all kinds of stuff in here. My favorite mug, sorry for having great tits and correct opinions on everything. That one's a fun one. There's all kinds of stuff in here. There's stickers and mugs and all kinds of things. So head on over there and support the show. I will drop it like it's hot in the chat. There you go. And yeah, YouTube is just removing people's livelihoods. Yep. I mean, I wasn't making a ton of money on YouTube, but it was nice, a nice supplement. And yeah, they took it away for no reason. So they're just going to do that to everybody they don't like, who doesn't have the correct opinions, that people who don't, subscribe to the prevailing narrative, and I certainly don't. From what I could gather, I think I bullied the entire month of June, because it was during June that this happened, during Pride Month, and I was doing a series of videos about what is there to be proud of. And I believe that I bullied the entire month of June. I'm quite proud of myself for that. I mean, talk about pride. I have a lot of pride that I bullied an entire month. I mean, it's about time. That month is really obnoxious, and I'm tired of it. So yeah, the Mega Pints are also in the store. The Johnny Depp merch is still in there. The Objection Hearsay merch is still in there as well. Check it out. And if you want to send a super chat, you can still send me on Cash App and Venmo. You can send a message and I'll read it. And it's just like a super chat, except Google doesn't get any of it. I get all of it. And I think that's actually better than super chats, because I don't have to give them a percentage. So yeah, I do have a link tree, and I'll post it in the chat. It's actually listed in the description of all these videos. If you go to the description, my link tree is there with all the links to everything. All right, let's continue. But every time somebody says, hey, why can't I send a super chat? I'm going to stop the show and point you down to the scrolling ticker.
Well, she was happy to see me. That's for sure. Just because it was a familiar face. I didn't think.
Hey, Martin, maybe it came across as me not liking gay people. Why would that matter? I mean, that's false. I have no problem with gay people. My best friend is a gay man. But let's say that I didn't like gay people. Why would that matter at all? What if you didn't like Mormons? Should you be, demonetized? What if you don't like Christians? There's plenty of anti-Christian content all over the place and they're monetized. It's bullshit. This is a free speech issue. Doesn't matter what I like, who I like, what I say about anybody. I have a right. Everybody has a right to say what they think. And if I think the month of June is obnoxious, I'm allowed to say it. Period. So whatever. Like, who cares? Who cares if somebody doesn't like gay people? But I love gay people. Look, my gay daughter is in the chat right now. Hi, Flux. How you doing? So ridiculous. Don't be ridiculous. And even if that were true, it wouldn't matter. I love you,
She would be there
Flux.
long because it didn't seem like she had been as bad as I'd seen her at her house. But then she got progressively sad because then Dad wasn't coming. It was just me. And then even when Jack was able to come, she really missed her mom. But academically, she was doing fantastic. She loved school. But pretty quickly, she wasn't as comfortable getting out of her bed and going around the hospital or going to the craft room or some of the things that we had done previously when I first started seeing her. Because she's a girly girl and she loves crafts, and she had crafts all over her room. And so I know she loved the craft room. And there was a piano in there and she loved to play the piano. But I guess I might have seen her for about, what was that, maybe 10 weeks, about 3 months maybe. And about halfway through, she really didn't go to the craft room much anymore after that.
Was that because she was in more pain or doing worse, or what was the reason?
She was in more pain, and she just laid in her bed a lot at that time. Instead of even sitting up, or just her disposition when I would get in there, or her position of her body. Towards the end, she was just laying down in her bed.
Let's talk about the process of getting into the hospital, getting access to Maya's room, and how you went about doing that each time. Was it social workers or nurses who would greet you at the hospital?
It was different every time. There didn't seem to be a pattern to it. I always have to check into the front desk. And in the very beginning, they would always call like a social worker, and they would come down and meet me and guide me up. After a while, I believe the place I signed was very odd too. One time I signed like the clergy. There wasn't really a designated place maybe for me to sign. So that changed a lot. So I didn't always log in at the same place. And then after a while, I think they would call up. I always had to wear my teacher badge.
So they're disorganized.
And then they would say you could let her in. But her rooms changed quite a bit. So sometimes the social worker would come and guide me up to where her new room was.
Was the reception that you got warm or cold or indifferent?
It was a little indifferent, like, who are you and why are you here to see her? So I just introduced myself right away. I'm Jackie Deeter. I'm her teacher. I kind of wanted to reiterate that I wasn't related to her because I was assuming that there was something written in the file of people not being able to see her. And so that, I think, helped. And then they led me to her room. But no, there was never oh, hey, Jackie, so glad you're here to, teach Maya today. She really needs, somebody to see her. Never that reception. Very cold.
And what about the interactions you observed between Maya and the nurses that went in and out as you were tutoring? Cold, warm, indifferent?
Indifferent, sometimes cold, very disconnected, very impersonal.
Oh my God, she's gonna cry.
Did they seem like pediatric nurses and social workers
Oh,
who cared
God.
about this little girl, or didn't care?
Why can't she give her opinion? She can give her impression.
We'll just kind of keep it to the legal basis.
The legal, outside the scope of this witness's
that objection I'll overrule.
Overruled.
So, as a teacher, I think about teachers, and a lot of people went to college to be teachers, and they don't know how to teach. And then there's teachers that go to school to be a teacher, and they're really good at it, like it was their gift, and they're natural.
It is not me doing the paper
And
shuffling.
then there's teachers that
Oh, I want to give her a
care about
hug.
their kids. And it's not just about teaching, it's also about teaching and caring. And so I guess if I was a teacher and had to relate to nursing, I would think there are nurses and they go to school to be nurses and they're good at their job.
What?
It is
What
a
are you
narrative, it's
objecting
not a
to?
response to the question.
I will sustain the narrative portion. Let's ask your next question.
Yes, Your Honor. Are there any particular interactions with a nurse or a nutritionist or a social worker that you recall?
So a few times I had interaction with a nutritionist who came in at the time that Maya was having to order her meal for the next time. And it was obvious at this point they were getting very frustrated in Maya because she kept ordering the same type of food. And even at one time, I looked at the menu and kind of went through the menu options with Maya to try to choose some other things. She liked the spaghetti noodles, but she didn't like sauce on it. She liked the jello or the pudding. She always had to have some type of dessert. And sometimes I don't remember the third thing or the vegetable, but it was one thing and it was like she ordered that same meal a lot. One time a nutritionist was very abrupt and quite not kind and said, Maya, you need to eat healthier. You need to eat, a more well-rounded dinner. And that, I believe, was the time that then I went through the menu with Maya and was trying to tell her, let's try to pick some things.
As if she hasn't been through enough.
She's eating a lot of carbs. She needs some weight. So it's probably good she's loading up on pasta. Not that I'm a nutritionist. And then she turned to me and got a little teary-eyed and said, I really miss my mom's cooking.
Oh.
Nurses came in all the time, took vitals, didn't say hello, didn't introduce themselves to me, didn't want to know who I was, took the vitals and left.
Again, it's not responsive to the question.
Sustained. Let's try to just answer the question that's asked.
He just asked what my interaction.
You're right,
Okay,
you're
okay.
You mentioned a few minutes ago, early on in her stay, her room was filled with crafts.
Mm-hmm.
What about her doorway outside her door?
No, I don't ever remember her doorway. A few times I don't think there was a name on her door because we would go into, I recall 3 different rooms. I could be wrong. And I remember one time I went into one, I think it was the last room I remember, and there wasn't a name on it, and I thought we were going into the wrong room. So no, there was nothing that said, oh, this is Maya's room.
Other than you, who else do you know of that was allowed to visit during this first 4 or 5 weeks at the hospital?
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for speculation.
She can answer.
She can answer if she knows.
So my teammate, my teammate, Danya Shepler.
Maybe answer the question.
Do you know?
Oh, yes.
Why don't you try to lay a foundation?
Okay.
Do you know who else was allowed to see Maya during the first 4 or 5 weeks of her stay at Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital?
Diana Shepler was only able to go like maybe the first week.
What about her father? Do you know if he was allowed to go?
No, he couldn't go.
So you were the only point of contact?
Yes.
Okay. What kind of tension did that create for you as the point of contact for Maya with Beata and Jack as the parents?
I think at first they were super thrilled that somebody could go. And I would go by the house and pick up cards and teddy bears and nail polish. So I think they were just excited Maya would get to see somebody. And Maya was super excited when I'd walk in initially. And then later, I think it got harder when Jack also couldn't go. And I think when Maya was figuring this out, I knew she was so excited to see me, but I'm sure she wanted to see her mom and dad.
Were Jack and Beata hungry for information about their daughter?
Yes, very hungry. So basically when I would leave, because it was about an hour and 20-minute drive, I would call and I would just kind of give an update. And I was always trying to be super positive just because this is what parents need to hear. And I thought Maya would be home any day now. So almost every day I left, on my drive home, I would call and just give them an update of fingernail polish, teddy bears. Once or twice, Maya liked to do selfies, so she took selfies of us in the hospital room. And yeah, they were super hungry to hear how she was doing.
How did Beata react to this information?
She was relieved that I could tell her about Maya and that Maya seemed really happy, or I painted her nails. It just felt like relief, like she had kind of been connected to Maya just by me being there and me talking about Maya and what our day was like that time. It really seemed like relief.
Imagine the
And I'm sure
hospital
with Jack,
keeping
the same.
Maya's
I don't know if
condition
they had
from
I
her
think they had made
parents.
the speakerphone a few times, and a few times I
What the
think I
hell
was
for?
just talking to Beata. And then I don't recall how much longer than Jack could finally go. So then the phone calls were almost just with Beata because she could hear from Jack how Maya was doing.
And over the 3 months that Maya was there, did you continue to provide updates to Beata, or did that become difficult?
Yeah, it became too difficult.
Can you explain a little bit to the jury?
Maya was just really desperate to see her. And I just think when I would talk about school and what we did, or if I took her to the craft room, or there was a fall festival one Saturday when I went up there. And I think I kind of knew Jack was seeing her. So Jack was able to give her the head, because she was really sad. She'd cry. She was desperate when I would then call and talk about me taking Maya to the fall festival. It was too much, and she so desperately wanted to be the one to see Maya that I bet I probably called her for the first 6 weeks, but I think the last month it just became too hard for me to. And we would do little summaries. I would give Maya a little summary of what she was doing for homework each week and what we were working on, and I would forward, I think, those to Beata. But yeah, that became too hard.
Too difficult to keep giving Beata updates.
Yes, because I was the one seeing her instead of her mom.
Let me show you what's been admitted as Exhibit 1001-2019. If we could publish that, Your Honor. Yeah. And if we could focus in, this looks like a October 23rd, 2016 social work note. And if we could focus in there on visit information, maybe just highlight that for the witness. You were, during this time, first of all, how far was the drive for you from your home or Taylor Ranch up to the hospital to see Maya?
It was about an hour and 20 minutes.
And so how often were you allowed or able to make that trip up to the hospital?
So when Mrs. Shepler couldn't go, she went maybe 2 or 3 times. And then for some reason, they weren't allowing her in there. I filled both of our positions. I would try to go twice a week.
Twice a week?
Mm-hmm.
And were you aware as to whether or not Maya was receiving any other instruction, 5th grade teacher or anything like that?
So I don't know how long she'd been here at the time. She'd been there a month.
She'd been here 2 weeks or so at this point.
At this point. So it was at the beginning of October. So the few times that I'd gone up to that point, and at that point, I think Mrs. Shepler had gone once or twice. We couldn't figure out if she had any kind of teacher. I allocated to her from the hospital or that county. And so I couldn't get anybody to give me that information. So the social worker that would escort me couldn't provide me any of information on whether Maya was getting additional work to do. And so I had talked to the IT guy, Dave Chamberlain, Calamari, and he had worked out me bringing a computer up there and that we would Skype just like we had at school. And then when I got there with that computer, they said I couldn't leave it with her. So it was a laptop for her to be able to possibly Skype and do schoolwork with us. And then I had to take it home. I would bring my computer for us to do work with, but I couldn't leave her a laptop to Skype. And nobody ever, all that time they were there, nobody could ever tell me if there was ever anybody helping her.
And why did you?
my
Why did that
God.
cause you so much concern and heartache?
Well, I knew I was the only person to see her. I don't know if at that point Jack could even see her. She was a bright girl. She really needed academics. No matter what was going on with her medically, she loved school. This is a kid that could have done 8 hours of school a day. So I thought if this is what she's really good at and she likes, why wouldn't there be some program at the hospital or in the district that would give her somebody that maybe didn't have to drive an hour and a half and could only do it twice a week for 2 hours. So I just was really desperate for her to try to get some education and for her to not fall behind.
And this laptop, this was an effort to ensure that she had more than an hour and a half, 3 hours a week of education.
Yes.
Yeah, it really sounds like they cared
And
about her
Who
at
at the hospital told you
a
that
whole
the
bunch,
laptop
right?
could not be left with Maya?
I don't recall if it was the social worker that led me in or a nurse there. I don't recall what person, but I literally had to put it outside the door of her room.
What were there any specific programs that were on that computer that would have helped Maya?
So the program that I brought the first time on my computer when I first went to see her is a program called Success Maker. The kids in the county use it. Right now there's a new program that's replaced it. It levels kids where they're at academically. So for kids that are really bright, it's a really great program because if they're in a fifth grade class, they could be doing sixth and seventh grade work. So it's what they call an individualized instruction program. They're really popular throughout the country. And so it's a program that would have allowed her to work on math or reading at her level based on literally her responses to the problems. Those are very well-known computer programs. The first time I went with my computer, they actually didn't let me go in with it because they said she couldn't have access to email. And I just said, well, find out for me who I can talk to, social worker, DCF, who I could talk to that would help me bring it in so that under the time I'm here with her, I will be able to have her just do this program with me and ensure that she's not on email.
Did they ever get an answer back to you?
No, just the next time I went, I brought my computer.
Did they seem, as the nurses and social workers, concerned that this little girl was only getting 3 hours of education a week?
Objection on the speculation.
Sustain the question.
Why is that speculation? She can give her opinion.
What was their attitude about Maya getting more instruction other than an hour and a half or 3 hours you were able to get up there?
Same objection.
You can answer that.
Good.
So my take on it as her teacher was, I didn't understand why, as the person that came to see her twice a week, there wasn't contact or communication with me answering any of that. Even to tell me, no, there's nothing here at this hospital that we do for her, or no, there's nobody in the county that can come and see her who's closer. So over that whole time, nobody ever contacted me about any kind of academic program for Maya.
But if you did that to your kid, you'd be educationally
Did you
neglecting them and
ever
they'd take
see
them
them
away.
doing anything therapeutic for Maya? Occupational therapy, physical therapy, psychological therapy?
No, I didn't see any of that.
When you're seeing her very limited time, what was Maya's attitude towards schoolwork versus anything else?
She loved schoolwork, loved it. She might have loved crafts a little bit more than that, but she did love schoolwork. So when I would be there, she would be very excited to do school. She also would want to talk for a few minutes because her first, seeing me, I always knew we weren't going to do schoolwork right away. It would be, what did she do? What was her day like? Or did she meet any kids at the craft room? So she was social. She really liked to tell me about how things were going because she didn't really have anybody to tell that to every day. But she liked getting into school. She liked knowing, where are the kids at? Are they doing? How did they do on this? How did I do? So she liked to learn.
What was your observation about Maya's interaction with the nurses and social workers? How did Maya react when they entered the room?
This is objection again. Same with speculation. It's also been asked to answer.
Yeah, overall, you can answer.
She was frustrated when the nutritionist came in because I think she knew that she wouldn't be happy. The nurses that came in and took her vitals, there was no connection to very much at all. It was very disassociated and impersonal. And every once in a while, when I would go there, she would say whatever we were talking about, because the nurses kind of came in.
Sustained position.
Whenever.
I'll have to re-ask the question.
Oh, okay.
Would Maya ever express to you any suspicions about the hospital?
Objection to hearsay.
Sustained.
What did Maya say to you about the
Do you
hospital?
recall any
Is she allowed to say
spontaneous
that?
statements that Maya made to you about hospital's treatment of her?
Same objection.
Sustained.
She's not allowed to say anything that Maya told her? It seems unreasonable, especially because Maya's there and she can get on the stand and corroborate it. I mean, isn't the point of hearsay not being allowed because you can't prove that it was said? Well, the person who said it's right there.
Get in trouble, so
Okay.
I'm going to move on.
I don't feel in trouble.
Okay, good. What about, did Maya appear to you to be in pain as it progressed from November to December?
She would verbalize that she was in pain. She would tell me.
So she's allowed to say
she would
that,
initially say it,
but
then
not
we'd
what
get
she
to our
thought about the
business talking,
hospital?
or sometimes she had me paint her fingernails or braid her hair. And then we would do school, and she would kind of just be quiet the whole
Doesn't
time.
seem
And randomly,
right.
a nurse would come in and she'd tell them, I'm in pain. Where sometimes when she would tell me that,
So why can she say
I would
this?
say, when the nurse comes in, tell them that, because I can't do anything about it. Or
How
I
is this
just
any
try to
different?
comfort her verbally.
And when she told you observed her telling the nurses this, was their reaction one of concern or one of indifference? What was the reaction?
Mostly indifference.
How was she doing, other than the pain she was expressing, how was she doing physically as the time went on in the hospital?
So as the time went on in the hospital, she looked like she did when I had seen her the year before. The progression was very similar, from outgoing and bubbly at the kitchen table, and she would sit up in bed, or we'd get in the wheelchair and go down the hall, to then she didn't want to get out of the bed. Her legs and feet had gone in again. And she would just lean back and kind of surrounded by pillows. So I definitely saw her following exactly what happened the previous year.
This all ended in January of 2017.
Right.
At December of 2016, do you have any contact with Beata about how Maya was doing?
I don't recall that I ever could tell her, Maya looks awful again, because I think that would have broken her heart. And I think because I knew Jack was able to relay what Maya looked like in bed, I figured he would be the one that could have told her how Maya was doing.
In this third month of her admission, how did you feel going to visit Maya as she was getting worse and you didn't feel comfortable telling Beata?
So it was feeling kind of desperate at that time because now I feared she wasn't getting out. This was going on too long and something more serious was going on. She was looking worse, like right before they went to Mexico. So I kind of had hope in a weird way. I thought whatever treatments the hospital could give her, because how it had been described to me previous was
Objection to the hearsay, Your Honor. In the nation.
Next question.
Yeah, he needs to try
Let me
what,
just
if any.
re-ask the question.
okay.
Try what, if any. It
How
worked
did
for
you
Elaine.
feel being in this position where you felt uncomfortable relaying what you were observing to Beata and seeing Maya deteriorate?
Just Judge, could you objection on the relevance?
I'm going to overrule the relevance.
The relevance
You can answer
is
that
that
question.
your clients are assholes. That's the relevance, and we're trying to prove that. I would make a terrible lawyer.
It felt very difficult to not tell Beata because Maya looked really bad. It reminded me of what she looked like the year before. And because Jack could see her, I just assumed Jack was telling her. It's a very difficult thing for me to not communicate that to Beata.
How did you learn what happened with Beata on January 8th, 2017?
Jack texted me on my phone.
Did you attend the funeral?
Yes. There were a few celebrations of life.
And then when Maya came home, did you resume tutoring again?
Yes.
So you'd seen her, of course, you'd seen her these months in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
You'd also seen her outside of the hospital before she went in.
Right.
And you saw her when she came out of the hospital.
Correct.
Was she better or worse? And if you could describe to the jury, how so?
After the hospital?
After the hospital.
Of course, she was super depressed or sad because she lost her mom. I think just like a breath of fresh air emotionally, mentally, because she had Kyle and her dad. Still seemed really weak. Initially, was super weak at the funeral. Looked tired. Then it took a while. Maybe to April or May, that she looked like she had strength again. She attended the graduation at school. And I think by then she was doing the wheelchair again. That was always a good indicator for me if her upper body was strong. And we had given her a Taylor Award. And so she was recognized at the graduation, and she seemed she seemed happy again.
Were Beata's concerns that Maya wasn't going to make it in the hospital justified from your
Objection,
perspective?
Your Honor, on speculation.
Same.
Were there times that you thought Maya wasn't going to make it in the hospital in late December, early January?
Objection here calls for a medical opinion.
Yeah, overrule that.
She looked like she did the year before, right before she went to Mexico. So she looked sunken in eyes, gray skin. She'd lost weight. She was definitely not getting better. And yes, if I had been a mom, I would have most definitely thought, this girl's not going to make it.
And as you finished out her 5th grade year now, was she determined to get better?
Maya was always determined to get better. She was a little feisty fighter. She was not going to let this break her, and she wasn't going to let a wheelchair limit her. She was always a fighter. So yeah, she was going to fight.
Was she like her mom in that way?
Yes, she was a lot like her mom in that way.
Yes, Alex, this is a Netflix documentary.
Your witness.
It's featured in a documentary called Take Care of Maya on Netflix. That is not me paper shuffling. I think this witness is really powerful. I think,
Hey, good afternoon.
but I still think that the plaintiff has a tough road.
Clay, maybe if you can put up the exhibit 2516001.
Stay tuned for It's all the state's fault. We had nothing to do with any of it. Our clients aren't the assholes.
Yes,
it's the
this is
states. That's going to be the argument from this guy.
At the start of the email, Ms. Deeter, it says that the county has changed their stance to allow Maya to be home health bound this year. Do you remember the circumstances where the county first said Maya couldn't do homebound and then switched it?
I do not, but I just know when the school year started, they weren't going to allow it. I don't know what determines why a student could be home health bound.
So let me ask this. Were you aware of any psychiatric crisis that Maya suffered prior to this that led to a relapse?
No, I was not aware of anything like that.
Okay, so let me ask you about, and Clay, if you'll put up Joint Exhibit 107364. And just the part where it says primary disability hospital / homebound. Okay. Let me just make sure that we understand that this is the highest level of disability in the school district. Is that right?
Yes.
Meaning there's different levels of independence from a student being allowed to come into the class. And this one is so restrictive that the child's going to be determined that they're not leaving the house. Is that correct? Okay. And we saw your signature earlier. I don't need to show it, but you participated in this consultation and decision?
Yes.
Okay. So let me ask you next about joint exhibit, which is in evidence 1073/76. Actually, let's do 75 first, please. The decision to homebound a student is based on a medical referral. Is that correct?
Yes, the homebound is.
Okay. If you'll scroll a little lower, please. Some of the questions on this, for example, number 7, could the student attend school with accommodation and, thank you. It's blurry, but it says, could the student attend school with accommodations, example, second set of books at home or use of a wheelchair? On Maya's form, that was checked no by her doctor. Is that right?
Yes, that's what this form says.
And then the next one below asks if there could be an accommodation. It says, could the student attend school regularly and receive homebound or hospitalization services on an intermittent basis? And that's also checked no.
I see that, yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next question is the one I wanted to ask you about. Is the student, in this case Maya, confined to a home or hospital full-time, homebound or hospitalized? Are those services recommended? And that's what Maya was recommended for, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so at least as of August 2016, before Maya went to All Children's, the school district, on a form that you helped complete and sign, were making the representation that Maya was going to be in the most restrictive learning element for this year, meaning she was too sick to even leave the home. True?
Objection. Legal basis, misstates the evidence. Overruled.
I'm sorry, can you ask that again?
Sure. According to the classifications for the Sarasota County classifications for homebound, based on the forms that you participated in and based on the medical review, as of August 2016, the school board determined based on the medical information that Maya was unable to leave the home at all to come to school and participate. Is that true?
Yes, that's what this form says.
Joint Exhibit 107376, this is the next exhibit. This is from, I think you mentioned Dr. Wassenauer. You're familiar with him?
Right, yes.
There was a question about whether the student, in this case Maya, was taking medication. Is this part of the forms that you guys review?
Yes.
Okay. And the answer is multiple medications in a way that may sometime affect the patient's cognition and ability to focus. Do you see that?
Yes.
Do you know which medications Maya was taking in August of 2016 that would have caused that statement from Dr. Wassenauer?
I do not know which he was talking about on this. It's not listed, but I do believe at that time she was taking ketamine.
Okay. And from what you recall, the ketamine would have been one of the drugs that may have affected her cognition.
It didn't seem to affect her cognition.
Let me ask you about, if you scroll up, or it's there on the form, the starting date for this form is August 22nd, 2016. Do you see that? And this would have been the medical, well, let me just back up, just so the jury understands. A medical referral is necessary from a doctor before the school will put a student on homebound, correct?
Correct.
And this is the form that the school district would rely on, this one from Dr. Wassenauer?
Correct.
Okay, so on August 22nd, 2016, Dr. Wassenauer, on behalf of Maya, is representing to the school district on the form that.
All right, hold on. We have another question. Gerard Kine wants to know, how do you send a super chat on this channel? Well, if you look down below you, you'll see a ticker that's going across the screen. YouTube is asshole. They demonetized my channel in June. I bullied the Pride Month, apparently. I bullied an entire month. So if you want to know how to send me a super chat, you can do it. You can do it on Venmo. You can do it on Cash App. You can go over to Rumble and send a Rumble rant. You can go to my locals, meganfox.locals.com, and join over there. Support the show. You can go to the merch shop. You can buy something for yourself. You can get a mug, a cup, a sweatshirt, a t-shirt, anything, all kinds of stuff. Look, we even have objection hearsay merch back from the Johnny Depp trial. We've got stickers, all kinds of stuff. And you can find that link in the chat. You can send it through locals. You can send it through Cash App, Venmo. It's rolling across the bottom of the screen. And every time somebody asks this question, I'm going to stop what I'm doing and answer it. Because you know what? We haven't had one super chat all day. I've been here for almost 2 hours. And this is what YouTube does, though. I know a bunch of you would have already sent them, but it's easier to not do it if the option isn't there. So I get it. I understand. But this is how YouTube takes away the livelihood of creators that it doesn't like. And so, I would encourage you to go an alternative route and to send those tips through Venmo and Cash App, or I'm going to have to mom shame you at some point. And I really don't need to do that. I mean, it's been almost 2 hours, folks, 2 hours of me giving my time and attention to you and this stream. Can I pin the link comment? What link comment? I don't know which comment you're talking about. Yeah, I have adorable merch, by the way. So there's Oh for Fox's Sake merch. There's mugs and cups and sweatshirts, all kinds of stuff. But if you want to fight back against YouTube demonetizing people that they just assume are bad for no reason, with no explanation, then go to Cash App, go to Venmo, send your tip that way. You can send me a message. It's just like a super chat, except guess what? Google doesn't get any of it. Yay. It all comes to me. So check the scrolling ticker. And the merch is right there above. It's in the chat, guys. I've dropped it a bazillion times. Oh, you want me to pin that one? All right, I'll go in and do that.
You guys rely on, that she is too sick to leave the home for education. Is that how I understand this?
Yes, it looks like that's what it's saying.
And this would be approximately 10 days after, well, let the record reflect, this is 10 days after the video that the court had seen published to the jury earlier of Maya in the pool. So let me ask you about the next form, which is the 107374. And again, this would be the prescription from Dr. Wassenauer that says that Maya is confined full-time to her home that you would rely on. Is that right?
Yes, that's what it says.
Okay. Do you, and if you don't, that's okay. Do you have a frame of mind of how Maya was doing, for example, in August or September or October before she went into All Children's Hospital?
Similar to the spring the year before. Was still in a wheelchair, couldn't walk. Good upper body strength. Very positive disposition.
Okay. So let me ask you, and you may know, I can show you the documents, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. Maya was also on homebound. So this is the 5th grade year, correct?
Correct.
It's just so that we have, dates are flying over the place. Maya was obviously at All Children's per the DCF order from October 2016 through January 2017. That would be the 5th grade year.
Right.
And you were her exceptional learning teacher for that period of time.
Yes.
And you were also, for the 4th grade year, you were also her teacher as well.
Yes.
And so you were helping her with homebound learning in 4th grade.
Correct.
And then that continued in 5th grade.
Correct.
Okay. Once you were allowed visitation through DCF at All Children's Hospital.
Yes.
Correct? Did you have to undergo a background check through them, or was that already cleared because you're a teacher? Do you know?
I think it must have been already cleared because I was a teacher.
Okay. Not trying to trick you on dates, I promise. It looks like you were able to see Maya fairly early in her hospitalization.
Yes.
One of the first visitors allowed.
Yes.
Were you ever denied access when you went up to All Children's to visit Maya?
No.
Okay. The jury heard about a time when there was a laptop that you asked whether she could be left with, and at least according to the record, or maybe in your memory, you remember the nurse saying it has to be left outside.
Right, and then I couldn't leave it with her.
Okay. Do you know whether that was pursuant to a DCF rule or a court order? Do you know?
They did not tell me of anything like that.
Okay. So at least as of today, you don't know whether laptop restrictions were ordered by the court or ordered by DCF.
It's a
Yes,
trap.
I was not aware
Okay.
that would happen.
To the best of your recollection, did you you came twice a week while she was in the hospital?
Yes.
Okay. At least according to the records, well, let me show you joint exhibit.
All right. Rafe just sent me a $20 super chat on locals. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. My locals peeps are my ride or die. I'm telling you, those people over there are the best. They are so much fun. And after this stream, we're going to be doing a locals exclusive on meganfox.locals.com where I do another installment of Tales from the Restaurant. It's going to be super fun. You don't want to miss it. Go sign up over there.
I'll show you one. It would be joint exhibit 1073227, which has been admitted into evidence. Clay. And if we could publish that to the jury. Are these the sheets that you sign off on when you visit Maya?
These are the sheets that we do. Yeah.
And I just wanted to ask you, it looks like you bring back the sheets to Beata for her to sign off on afterwards?
Right.
Okay. And just for example, on the 24th of October, this would signify, the jury knows that Maya's at All Children's per a shelter order, but this would signify that you went to All Children's, for example, on the 24th.
Correct.
And you spent, it looks like 2.5 hours with Maya.
Yes, it would typically be about that time frame.
Okay. Yeah, and there's all of the records seem to show that, just so we don't have to go through each
Okay.
one. But to the best of your recollection, you were going up to All Children's about twice a week for 2.5 hours per session?
In the very beginning, Mrs. Shepler went.
Okay.
And then when she wasn't going, I took both of our places.
Understood. Do you ever recall having to cut a lesson plan short?
I don't really recall that. I typically recall trying to stay there longer than this paperwork would even share, just because I try to get as much in as I could.
Sure.
And sometimes it wasn't, sometimes 15, 20 minutes would be us catching up and chatting.
Gotcha.
So at the hospital, that could have happened towards the end when she would be tired.
Okay. At least according to the records, each one shows that you spent at least 2.5 hours with her. Is that consistent with what you generally recall, or maybe more?
Well, 30 minutes of this was planning before I would go, and then 2 hours tutoring. But yeah, I would basically always spend 2 hours with her.
Okay.
And the days weren't always, like I would sometimes go on a Saturday.
Mm-hmm. You talked earlier on about some frustration about Maya, in your belief, wanting, or maybe you thought she needed a little more education. Did you ever reach out to DCF and ask them if she could have more educational visitors at the hospital?
I don't believe I reached out to DCF. I guess I didn't know that that's the line I would have gone. I thought approaching the hospital would be how I would find that out.
Okay. But at least from what you recall, you didn't reach out to either the court or DCF and ask them if they could allow more educational opportunity?
I did not.
Okay. After Maya
How is
was
she supposed to
released
reach out
from
to the court?
hospital,
Get a
you
lawyer?
continued to tutor her at
What? You
her
can't just
house?
call a judge.
Okay. Let me ask you.
And
this is
DCF
also
wouldn't have
joint
talked
exhibit
to her
that's been received in evidence.
because it's all confidential.
1074003.
What a bunch of bullshit. This guy thinks we're stupid.
This on the right side would be her school grades, Maya's. And again, the year would be 2016 through 2017. Would you be the teacher providing the language art and math grade?
Language arts would have been Mrs. Shepler and math would have been myself.
Okay. And this calendar school year, for the period which with Maya was sheltered at the hospital, she still got straight A's?
Yes.
Okay. If you'll go to 1074004, the next page. And on the left side is the 2017-2018 school year. Let me just ask you, did you remain in touch with Maya after she went to middle school?
Mostly through her father on what was going on and how she was doing.
Mm-hmm. Were you aware that Maya got straight A's the next year?
I was not aware.
Okay. Were you aware that Maya was back in school
Thank
physically
you,
the
AP.
next year after
I
she left
appreciate
All
that.
Children's Hospital?
Which one did you get?
I had heard that she was at Venice Middle, yeah.
Okay. And just if you can help me interpret this, the next year after Maya left All Children's for the next school year, does this report card show at the bottom the numbers of days she was in school versus the number of days she's absent?
Yes, it does.
And what does it show for the next academic year after she was released from the hospital in terms of her being absent or in school?
Then she was absent 4 days.
Do you know how Maya's doing now academically?
I'm assuming she's doing amazing.
Yeah.
But I haven't reached out to her high school teachers.
Okay.
Whom I know many.
Just one moment, Your Honor.
Just one moment while I shuffle some more papers and hurt your eardrums. Oh, God. Why does it sound like the microphone is literally sitting on top of his papers? Crikey.
I don't have any more questions for you. Thank you for your time today.
Mr. Whitney?
Okay.
May I do redirect, Your Honor?
Mr. Whitney started this witness.
Ronan, knock it off. Stop trying to troll me.
At no point while Maya was on these ketamine treatments did her performance waver. Is that right?
Correct.
Were you aware of her attitude or of going to school in a wheelchair?
She didn't mind being in a wheelchair. She was excited to be at school. I'm assuming that's how it was in middle school too, but in my classroom, she didn't mind that.
You know Dr. Wassenaar. You know of Dr.
I know
Wassenaar.
of him, yes.
And you were just presented a form where he answered a questionnaire.
Correct.
And there was some mention on that questionnaire that some medications may cause cognitive difficulties.
Correct.
It didn't specify on that form what medications those would have been, did it?
No.
It didn't specify whether those were medications prescribed by Johns Hopkins Children's Hospital, did it?
No.
If it was ketamine, you interacted with that long, did you ever, there's a concern on that form that there might be some cognitive difficulties based on unspecified medications, but you were aware of the ketamine, right?
Correct. Correct.
Did you ever see any cognitive difficulties of Maya's during these ketamine treatments?
Never.
No further questions.
Anything else, Mr. Shapiro?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Members of the jury, are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, ma'am, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Members of the jury, I think this is a good time for us to take an afternoon break. Do not discuss this case amongst yourselves. Do not do any investigation and receive no information. And we'll try to keep it to no more than 15 minutes. That we're going to have issues with. Do we need to have a further discussion today about any issues, or are we going to break until 8:30 on Tuesday morning?
8:30 Tuesday.
Not on behalf of the defense.
I really want a list, a printout, either typed up or neat handwriting of the exhibits that are in, and then those that we're going to have issues with. That way we can, hold on a second.
Judge Tufty laying down the law. He's telling these lawyers to get their shit together because last week they had
One of the jurors had a question.
not figured out their evidence. Uh-oh. A juror has
See
a
if you
question.
can- Okay. While we're figuring that out,
So, Judge, we filed the plaintiff's exhibit list with all our.
The jury forgot to ask their questions of the witness, I
they were
think.
talking to each other. The
Oh, okay,
deputies.
all right, okay to proceed.
Yes.
Okay. We filed.
It's Miss Mole.
All the plaintiff's exhibits with our objections listed on there. So I'm not quite sure what else the court wants. You want us to print that and bring it?
Well, I don't want
Thanks, Iris.
many pages. I want the exhibits, the numbers that you all can agree to, so that we can just announce them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay.
And then those that apparently you're going to
Don't forget to like this stream and subscribe.
I can just let's look at this one, this one, this one, so we can try to do this more efficiently than we did today.
Your Honor, I think to clarify Ms. Crowell's concern, you're just referring to, I believe, the exhibits that are going to be used, for example, Tuesday with those witnesses.
That was my understanding of what you were trying to do.
Okay,
Yes, Your Honor,
I thought you meant all of the exhibits. I was trying to understand. All right, thank you, Judge.
Can't find her? Okay.
I mean, if
think she's gone.
Oh, that hair
We
is
could
so
bring her
bad.
back if the juror wants to keep the question, we can bring her back sometime Tuesday.
That seems.
Or ask them if it's a big deal. I don't know.
Do you want me to tell the jury that they can go, or?
Our paralegal, if you give her 3 minutes, she's calling her, and I bet she can get her back.
Look, why don't we just get?
I'm dying to know what the question is.
Only one at a time.
I suggest that we can bring her back sometime on Tuesday. I don't think that would be a big problem. If she's in the area, fine, but if not, I don't see the reason to have her turn around, drive back and all this at this point. I think it's up to the court.
Judge, could we look at the question? Maybe it's not even one your court's gonna give.
No, I think that's probably a good idea. And then ultimately, if we can't get her, then maybe some afternoon, because I suspect that she's working during the day, and try not to disrupt her. Can you call the deputy Coley and ask the juror to write out the question if they haven't already done so, and then bring the question in?
All right. While they're figuring this out, I'm going to read my super chat that Meredith sent on Venmo. Meredith, thank you so much. She says, the mom guilt is real, Megan. Damn. Also, my doggo Max just passed away after 15 long years. I'm so sorry to hear that. I got his ashes back a few days ago. The whole family misses him, but he was my emotional support since age 13. Thanks for the trial stream and distraction. Much appreciated. Meredith, honey, I am so sorry to hear that. I feel your pain. I still miss my moose, and he's been gone almost 3 years, and his ashes sit on my dresser. And man, it is rough when you lose your beloved animals. So praying for you, honey. That's terrible, and I'm so sorry. And I'm glad that you're here and we're hanging out again. And geez, so sorry. We love our pets, don't we?
Other issues that we need to
Hugs to you.
deal with?
Judge, just a.
Deputy Demizio, can you close the door? Thank you.
Yeah, F in the chat for Max, everybody.
The day, the end of a couple of days.
Rest in peace,
Is
buddy.
somebody keeping track of the minutes being used? And
I am keeping track of the minutes.
Can we have just an announcement so we know how we're doing in our tally?
I can, but I haven't tallied it for the last. So that's 35, 15. Okay, so I've got for the plaintiffs, they've used 60 plus 40 plus.
Okay, Jillian, you would think that, but I have been in court cases where in Cynthia Absuck's case in particular, where the jurors ask questions, and all it does is show you how goddamn dumb they are. They weren't paying attention, and it let me know right away, holy shit, there's going to be trouble, because they're not paying attention, and you get to see an inside look into how dumb the general public is.
45 plus.
And
1
we'll
hour.
see what kind of questions that these
That's
people
2
ask.
hours.
But the Absuck jurors were
3 hours
bad.
and 25 minutes.
For plaintiffs.
Because it's 60 and 60, that's 2 hours. 40 and 45, so that's.
Yeah, we're mathing now. This is where they do the thing where they keep track of how much time each
so
side
that's
is
3
using,
hours and
so it's
25
fair.
minutes. The defense has used 555
We'll speed it up
and
a bit.
15, so that's 30 minutes. So we consumed just under 4 hours of trial time today with witnesses. So 3 hours, 25 minutes, and 30 minutes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I intend on doing it every day. I just hadn't physically added them up. Here's the questions, plural.
Oh, here's the question. Here's the question.
The jury's not here.
Here it
Question
is.
number 1, how did you keep her upright without support? Or actually it starts off with, you mentioned sitting her up on a bar stool. How did you keep her upright without support? That's question 1.
Why is that relevant at all? Do you see what I mean about juries? Why are they focusing on how did you keep her upright? It's a bizarre thing. She wasn't unable to sit up. Her legs didn't work, but she could sit up. They're not paying attention. Do you see?
Question 2 is, did you ever see Maya in a wheelchair with a strap or support upright? And then question 3, can you describe how you managed Maya's limited mobility? Did you ask for support? Did you lift her? So if you all want to look at the physical.
Why does any of that matter to this case? It is not in question whether she was wheelchair bound or not. None of that is a question in this case. This is what I mean when I tell you that the juries are going to destroy our country because they're not paying attention to what is happening in front of them. None of these things that they're asking are relevant to this case. This is some Karen on the jury who's got herself obsessed with some detail that doesn't even matter. Can you believe? I hope they don't even ask these questions of the witness because they're irrelevant.
Anyone who wants to, they can. And apparently she's on her way back.
They're going to actually ask her this? Oh, God. Winter. You know, while we're waiting for this, I got another Cash App, I think.
No, and I asked them not to put the juror number on it.
Thank you, Carly. I appreciate it. Carly sent a Cash App, no message, but I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And by the way, I never read full names, so if you want to send me a Cash App or Venmo, I'll only give your first name or first initial.
Yes, Mr. Hunter.
First name is probably good enough, right? I'm not going to dox anybody.
She's in the hallway? Okay. Or not. Counsel, any objection to these questions?
Not particularly, Judge. I think the problem is specifics of when, but maybe the witness.
Yeah. Okay. So is the jury ready to come back? Y'all ready for the jury to come back?
I cannot believe that they are going to answer these questions.
As soon as the witness is in, then we'll bring the jury in.
There's no relevance at all. There's just zero. No one is disputing that she was in a wheelchair or that she had mobility problems. Like, what does this have to do with anything? You know, if I were on the jury, do you know what I would be asking of this witness?
The jury just
I
had a
would
couple
want to know.
questions.
I would want to know what they tried to stop her from saying. And I would, as the jury, ask it again and try and come up with a way to ask it, which is, what were they trying to stop her from saying? Oh, what did Maya say to you? How did Maya feel about, or did she ever say anything to you about how she felt about the nurses or the way she was treated in the hospital? That's what I would want to hear. That's what I want to know. I want to know all the shit that the other lawyers don't want us to know. I mean, for God's sake. All right, you guys. All right. So I know some of you are confused about these jury questions. This is a state-by-state thing. Some states allow it, like Colorado and Florida, and some states don't. In Colorado, this was done in the Cynthia Absug case, and it drove me absolutely crazy. And apparently they do it in Florida too. And I think I actually don't like it. I don't like it at all because it just shows you how stupid juries are. And I can't even handle it. And if you get somebody on a jury who's an attention-seeking narcissist, they will just, make up shit to ask so that they can be heard without taking this process seriously at all. And I feel like that could be happening here. Like, ugh.
Okay. I'm gonna just let you know, I'm gonna ask you in front of the jury if you remember that you're still under oath. So just
Duncan, thank you for the locals
Let's
tips.
bring in the jury.
Duncan says, I have 2 local subscriptions now, you and Ricada Law. I think this judge looks at that tuft of hair in the mirror every morning and thinks, nope, not yet. Second tip from Duncan, Idaho, says, other important jury questions. How did she go pee-pee poo-poo if she was in a wheelchair? Yeah, exactly. This is the quality of questions we're getting from this jury. You think it's better to know where the jury is at, Billy, but I'm telling you, it makes it worse when you are invested emotionally in a case. It just makes it worse because when you see the jury going off the rails, it's so hard. so damn hard to watch it happen. Now, I'm not saying they're particularly going off the rails yet, but I don't
everyone
like
please
it.
be seated. Welcome back, members of the jury. Want to confirm why you were away, believing you were on your holiday here, that you did not discuss this case amongst yourselves. You did no investigation and received no information.
In
Is
the
that
last
all
30
correct?
seconds, you
Okay.
did no investigation
And
while you were out of the
ma'am, you
courtroom
understand
for
you
2
were still
minutes.
under oath? Okay. Now, the jury had some questions, so I'm going to go ahead and read the questions and you can answer the jury. You mentioned sitting Maya up on a bar stool. How did you keep her upright without support?
So I'm sorry, their bar stools had like a back support. So when I would go to tutor her at her house in their kitchen, I would put her up there and she would just sit.
Okay. Did you ever see
I'd like to know
Maya
that too,
in a
Ronan.
wheelchair with a strap or support or upright?
I don't recall that.
And can you describe how you managed Maya's limited mobility?
She already answered
in the
that.
classroom or at her house.
She answered it while she
or
was
at the
testifying, and they
hospital?
just didn't fucking listen.
Well, I don't really know.
So should I answer all three?
Oh God, these
Yes,
people.
let's do it that way.
If I
So
were
in
the
the
judge, I would be
classroom,
like,
one
people,
of her really
are you
good friends,
kidding?
Sophia, was in the class. So Sophia loved pushing her around. Sometimes I would push her to and from. She always stayed in her wheelchair. She never moved into a seat. At her house, same thing. Some of the time she would move herself when her upper body strength was good. And then I would just move her out of her wheelchair into the seat. And then at the hospital, it was hit and miss, but pretty similar. If she wanted to go to the craft room or someplace, I would lift her out of the bed and put her in her wheelchair and we would go. Depending on her strength level, I would push her in the wheelchair or she would roll it with her arms. And then we would get back and I would put her back in her bed.
And you somewhat answered this, but did you ask for support to help lift her?
No, I'd done it so many times. For so long.
She was 9.
Mr. Whitney, do you have follow-up questions
don't
based
wait
on the
much.
jurors' questions?
Yes, John, just very briefly.
I got another
Those
Cash
questions
App
didn't address
tip here.
the time period. So
$5 for
at her
love
house in
from
the spring of
Wisco.
2016,
Come get some cheese. Love
how
the
did you manage
streams.
her
Thank you.
mobility? Did you have to lift her out of her wheelchair or did she do it herself?
No, in the spring of 2016, was that her?
After Mexico?
Yeah, no, she had arm strength at that time.
That's all I have.
Mr. Shapiro, anything further?
You know, class dismissed.
Well, members of the jury, do you have any other
Yeah,
questions? This is a
now
speak
or
now or forever hold your peace type moment.
Yeah, no kidding. Speak now or we're
Okay,
not
seeing
doing
none.
this again.
At this time, you are free to go.
How come the volume
Thank
got so loud all of a sudden? All right. All right. Now the jury is going back. I mean, did you get anything from that, folks? Was that very enlightening for you to hear about how she moved her from the chair to the wheelchair to the bed and bed back and all? Just so, I hate juries. I'm sorry, but I hate them. All right. So it's over. The judge is just telling them what time to be back, which would be tomorrow at 9 a.m. I am going to be here covering that live tomorrow at 9 a.m. I don't know how long I'm going to be able to do it, but I am going to do it live tomorrow. So, yeah, their mic was suddenly upgraded from potato to yam, says Liz Bots. That was a good one. So tomorrow I'll be here at 9, but right now, what I'm going to do is head over to Locals for a Locals exclusive stream. And I can't wait to do it because meganfox.locals.com, I am doing Tales from the Restaurant over there. And if you would like a little sneak preview of what that is like, I'm going to play for you a little clip of that I made. Let's see, of one of these stories, just so you can have a taste of it. We laugh riotously about this. It is so much fun to talk about all the characters that I encounter in the restaurant. when I'm waiting tables Wednesday through Sunday. And I've got a good one for you. So let me share this with you. Hang on. And then I'm headed over to Locals where it's subs only. So you got to get over there and become a subscriber if you want to take part in it. It's so much fun. And we just laugh and laugh. We have a great time over there. I do a lot of stuff over there that's just fun. Cooking, cleaning, laundry streams, watching movies together, documentaries. We're going to watch Take Care of Maya, by the way, on my Locals exclusive. MeganFox.locals.com. Get over there and make sure that you use the promo code SQUATS for a discount. All right, I'm going to share this with you now so you can see a little bit of what I'm doing over on Locals and give it a little trial, right? All right, here we go. Gen X gays are just cooler than Zoomer gays by a lot. The younger lesbians who come in, or whatever they are, pansexual, I don't know these days. Who the hell knows? Like, you know a Gen X lesbian when you see one. There's no like ambiguity. And you can say, "Hi ladies, how you doing today?" And nobody gets offended. But you walk over to a Zoomer table and you're like, "Hello, folks." Like, I realized as it was coming out of my mouth, like, oh, if I say ladies at this table, some of these bitches are going to get offended. I have to come up with like a whole new way of like, oh, greeting people, like, "Oh, hello, friends." Hi there, you know? Hello, annoying shitbags. And they're not very pleasant either, and they don't tip well. Lesbians tip well. The actual lesbians tip well. All right, so there you have it. So that's one little story, and boy, do I have a bunch of them for you after the weekend that I had. It's going to be so... Greetings, Earthlings. That's another good one. I should try that. I'm going to try that next time there's a table of people with nose rings and buzz cuts who are ambiguous, about gender ambiguous. Greetings, Earthlings. Nanu nanu. Oh my God, were they hot though? The Zoomers? No, not at all. The Gen X lesbians though are pretty hot. They all work out. They have muscles, and like they're they look good. But dang, the Zoomers are all really fat and not attractive. What? It's telling you that the codes are invalid? All right, wait a minute. Let me go fix that right now if that's the case. Let me check. I'm checking it right now. They shouldn't be. I put them way out into the distance. Are you doing the right code for the right sign up? Squats is for yearly membership. AJLT is for monthly membership. So if that makes a difference, but let me check. I'm looking right now. Except I don't know where I put it. Is it under settings? Where do I find it? Hold on. Codes. Dun, 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 dun. It may have expired. Shit. Wait, how do I... No, I have it expiring in January of 2024. Squats is still going for the annual 1 month. You get a 1 month trial. And where's the other one? AGLT is not expired yet either. Wait, is it? Oh, that one might be. All right, I'll add one for you. Let's do this. We'll add a code. Let's make it what should we make it? Now I'm drawing a blank on making up a code. Dang it. Somebody give me a short word, quick. Maya. All right, we'll do Maya. All right, here we go. MAYA. Duration of trial. We'll give it a month. This would be for monthly. Start. What day is today? 22? No, what day is today? The hell is the date today? The 25th? 24th? All right, we'll start today. Expiration. Let's make it all the way out to April 1st. There we go. Save. All right. Try that now. Try Maya. Maya. Try that. Squats still works for the yearly. Maya is the new code for monthly. Try that. Maya. Sorry about that. Do caps matter? I don't think so. I don't think so. I know. My hair is crazy today. This is how I woke up today. Just sometimes this is what we're doing. This is what we're working with. All right, guys. Join me over on Locals, meganfox.locals.com. We fixed the promo codes. And so now it's Squats for a yearly membership, Maya for monthly membership. Get on over there and get your free trial. I'm going to be doing a live stream right after this. I'm going to go set it up right now. Tales from the Restaurant coming soon. All right, guys. You know what we haven't done? Speaking of squats, our squats. Get up, fat ass. Do your squats. We need to do it right now. I'm getting up with you. Let's go.
You impose fatness on you. You did it by going, oh, I want the butter on the popcorn. Oh, I want the butter on the ice cream. Oh, I want the butter on the sandwich. Oh, I want the butter on the salad. Stop eating butter. Can you just get up, walk 1 mile? Do squats! Walk farther. And if you can't walk, crawl, roll, get dragged by a god.
Yep, Billy, I got it. I just noticed it just now. Sorry about that. Yep, Billy just sent one. And it says, let me read it because I don't want to leave anybody out. And it says, just for being you and just because YouTube is asshole. Well, of course, I totally agree with that. All right, let me check real quick to make sure I didn't miss any more because I don't want to get you guys. I don't want to stiff anybody. Let's see. I'll check Venmo. All right, good. We're good to go. Go back to your squats. See?
You impose fatness on you. You did it by going, oh, I want the butter on the popcorn. Oh, I want the butter on the ice cream. Oh, I want the butter on the sandwich. Oh, I want the butter on the salad. Stop eating butter. Can you just get up, walk 1 mile? Do squats! Walk farther. And if you can't walk, crawl, roll, get dragged by a goddamn forklift. Whatever is wrong with you, just move. Ever. Get off the chair, get off the couch. No one is coming to service you while you sink into that furniture, while you become one with the pleather your poor ass got on that Walmart couch. Can you try not floating into sadness? Stop eating, stop drinking, start walking, start doing anything that you haven't been doing, you fat piece of shit.